Hello, it's me, Maria, here at the Gulfport Public Library. I'm sorry for the delay, but I'm here to finally discuss A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, which was July's book club book. So let's get started. A Tree Grows in Brooklyn is by Betty Smith. It was published in 1943 by Harper and Brothers. It's a semi-autobiographical. I thought it was actually a memoir the whole time, but it is considered fiction on our shelves, at least. It's also considered one of the greatest American novels of the 20th century, and there have been two films produced in 1945 and 1974. This is a little bit about the author, Betty Smith. She was a non-degree student. She was just sitting in classes at the time at the University of Michigan. I don't know what her circumstances were. However, I do know that her husband was a law student, which is what allowed her to sit in a couple courses. From there, she went to Yale Drama School, where she completed 3 years, but she never got her degree. She then moved her family to Brooklyn, New York, to work at the Federal Theater. Fun fact about the novel, she first submitted A Tree Grows in Brooklyn as a play, and that was unsuccessful, and then she submitted it to the Harper and Brothers 125th anniversary nonfiction contest, which she was disqualified from because her piece is not all considered nonfiction. Some of it's true, but some of it she, fabricated. However, even though she was disqualified, the publisher agreed to publish her book. And it was, and it still is at times, considered a bestseller. It's still fairly popular. Okay, so what is the book about? The novel follows the life of the Nolan family, which consists of Francie the youngest, Neely the brother, Johnny the father, and Katie the mother. They all live in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and it starts off at 1912, and it goes all the way till, I believe, the 1940s. But while we get little snippets of all the Nolan family members, the story focuses a lot on Francie and her upbringing, her coming of age, and her eventual perseverance over poverty. So the family is very poor. Johnny, the father, has a sort of he's sort of an on-call waiter / singer. So every night, well, not every night, the nights that restaurants need him to sing or fill in, he goes over there. So it's not as stable as some jobs. Katie, she works as a janitor for this apartment complex where they live, and that's how they're able to afford to live anywhere, because they can't really afford to pay rent. The novel starts off discussing sort of what the family eats every night, or how they survive on I think it's 15 cents at the time, and the kids who do pretty much some of the work that the adults should be doing, like buying groceries. So they go out and buy about 3 loaves of bread, and that's pretty much what they survive on for the whole week. And the mom is actually pretty innovative. She makes all kinds of meals from 3 pieces of bread and some black pepper and some flour and a little bit of butter. So it is majority heartbreaking. I don't want to say, how do I say this without telling you the end? I was sort of disappointed in the ending. I was so captivated by all the dysfunction and the crazy things that happened in this family, and how they seem to overcome it and still are fairly close. But I was not satisfied with the ending. I was sort of expecting a rise, and I'm not saying that their situation improved. It did improve. However, I just felt like there could have been more, and part of me feels like some of the characters gave up. They didn't, though. I don't want to say they did, but I felt like they could have done more, and they sort of lost the will, and they were content, and that made me feel a little disappointed, because the main character is incredibly smart and has so much potential, and I felt like there just could have been more. However, this was a different time. This was like the 1940s, so I might be speaking out about some things I don't quite know, but I just felt like there could have been more, sort of a bigger jump from the very few chapters. However, aside from that, the book is broken up into a lot of chapters. It's actually broken up into 5 books, and then a bunch of chapters, and the chapters are sort of each individually a short story, which I like. Just a different. It's not like day 1, day 2. It jumps. 1 minute they're like 7 and 10, and then all of a sudden they're in their teens. But the author constructed it enough where you felt like nothing was missing. You got their whole life without getting it all and being redundant. So I like that, and I like the change in narrator. Sometimes it was an unknown narrator, and then sometimes it was Francie, which I liked. I just was really expecting, I wanted more for the character, and I wanted her to want more, and I felt like she eventually stopped wanting more, and it just made me really sad. This was probably in the top 3 saddest stories, if not, it was sad, and that's how I felt even at the ending. So, just a heads up. Some of the themes this book covers, is poverty, like we talked about, education. Francie is, she is incredibly smart. However, she has to be, her and her brother are stuck in a specific school because of the district they live in, and they live in a poor neighborhood, so they have to sort of go to this poor school where some of the teachers just don't care about students, and but she loves school, even though some of the teachers treat her differently because she's poor, which boggled me because they were all poor, but because she was poorer than the other kids, the teachers look down at her. That goes into the next theme, class. However, at a very young age, Francie knew that the only way for her to change her situation and to rise above poverty was to continue going to school, whatever she had to do. There even is a time in the book where she couldn't finish high school because she had to go to work and help her mom. Class, there's a lot of I'm better than you because I have more money, or you don't matter because your parents are alcoholics, or you don't matter because your mom and dad don't make this money, or you don't have the right pair of shoes, or you don't have any shoes. There's a lot of judgments. It broke my heart but I feel like that still happens today. I knew it happened a lot to me growing up. My family never had a lot of money, and like, certain kids didn't want to talk to you because you didn't have the specific name brand sweater, or they just looked down on you because your parents are doctors or lawyers. It was not surprising to read some of those incidents, and there's more than one. And it's even sadder that a 9-year-old can see that. Like, those are things a 9-year-old should be focused on. So there was definitely some things that there are moments that make you question some humans a bit, but I expected it. I wasn't surprised. The last theme is the coming of age. This is about Francie's growth, her ups and her downs, and there's a lot of downs. There are definitely moments of ups, but there's a lot of downs. It's not as balanced as I liked it. So, but there are moments where Francie learns a little bit about herself or about the world through pain, if I'm saying that right. For instance, when she learns people are going to treat her different because she's poor, she learns that because she overhears the school doctor and nurse talking about her and her brother. And she's, I think, about 9 years old. So she has to learn about the world in a hard and difficult way. Sometimes you learn people aren't always going to be nice. You might learn that from a lesson from your mom or dad, or you might learn that from a movie or reading it. She actually learns it because these people, she witnesses people not being nice to her. She steps out of her house and immediately people don't treat her right. However, there are moments of sort of, how do I say this, where she gains a little bit of herself, she gains a little bit of herself, or you can see the moments where she's constructing herself and her identity and gaining confidence. For instance, she has a teacher that pushes her or admires her writing. She's a very good writer. And this teacher praises her for her stories. However, when Francie decides to write about her family, the teacher mentions to her that, you should write pretty things, and the only things that are true are pretty things, and don't make stuff up. And she stands up and says, these are all things that are true. And though it's dark and bleak and sad, there is beauty in it. And which sort of, I think, is what Betty Smith was trying to do in this novel. While poverty is difficult to discuss and traumatic and horrific at times, people can still find beauty. At least the people who live in poverty can find beauty, and thus other people who might, who are fortunately not have to go through that, or not have to live through poverty, can also find beauty in that, if that makes sense. Instead of just having this stigma, and there is that stigma of poor people, just, they're poor. They don't belong, or they're not individuals. But Betty Smith is trying to tell us, hey, these are people too. Just because they're poor doesn't mean, they don't matter. And just because they're poor, there's no value. Just because they're poor doesn't mean they don't have any values, or they don't have any beauty in their lives. And there are moments in this book that are happy, and you wonder whether the richest people in the world have little sentimental moments like these. So that is what I got from the book. Now let's get to my favorite quotes. This is my first one. People always think that happiness is a faraway thing, something complicated and hard to get, yet what little things can make it up. A place of shelter when it rains, a cup of strong hot coffee when you're blue, for a man a cigarette for contentment, a book to read when you're alone, just to be with someone you love. This goes back to what I just said. There's though this family doesn't have much, they still have things in their lives that make them happy. Each other. Katie's love for Johnny, even though Johnny is sort of unstable, is admiring. She lives for her man, and she doesn't care what the rumors are about her, husband. Every time they get a cup of coffee, it's sort of their only luxury. But I think everybody, if you're a coffee lover, can relate to that feeling, that happiness you get when you get a good cup of joe, and especially in the morning. I know I'm not the richest person in the world, but I'm very fortunate to have somebody that loves me when I come home, and that I have a roof over my head, and I have food to eat. So I may not have mansions and millions, but my dog makes me happy. So these are things that I don't consider are small, but people always seem to seek, or some people seek happiness elsewhere instead of looking right in front of you. So I like this quote. This is my second quote. Francie felt the way her mother thought about her. She grew an answering hardness against her mother, and this hardness, paradoxically enough, brought them a little closer together because it made them more alike. I like this a lot because it reminds me of my relationship with my mother. I'm not very close to my mother. My mother is not a very warm person, though she did everything and provided for us and showed her love in other ways. She was not considered, or at least I would not consider her warm. I don't think I ever heard her say I love you or I'm proud of you. She's just not very emotional. She's like a rock, I like to say. She's firm. And she's very quiet, very I guess she's very focused on herself, but I don't want to say she's selfish, but she's just very into her own life, and because of that, I never felt like I could be close to my mom, and she maybe found it difficult to open up. I'm not sure. And for some reason, because of her hardness, I sort of became that kind of person. I'm definitely a lot more emotional, though. I always tell my kids I love them. But I got along better with my mom than my brothers did, because we were sort of both hard and tough, and we didn't cry all the time, and we just, said what we need to say and went on with our day. And I guess in some sense that was bonding, but I don't know. This just made me think about my mother. And my third favorite quote is, "The sad thing was in the knowing that all their nerve would get them nowhere in the world, and that they were lost as all people in Brooklyn seem lost when the day is nearly over, and even though the sun is still bright, it is thin and doesn't give you warmth when it shines on you." This quote was sad, and it just brought me back to growing up. Like I said, my family didn't have a lot of money, and it's hard sometimes, while I am grateful, maybe I wasn't at the time, for, the sun being out and but, and some people are just happy to see the sun rise the next day. It's hard to focus on things like that when you're trying to focus on, what did your parents pay the power bill? Am I going to have power when I get home? Or is there food going to be in the fridge? You sort of push the sun aside and your thankfulness to the side, and it's not you're not trying to, I'm not trying to say I wasn't thankful. I just couldn't see it at that moment because my brain was focused on other things, and which people who've never been poor, I don't think some people see that, and it's not something I can just stop thinking about, because food and having shelter, I think, is vital. But that's what this quote made me feel. My fourth favorite quote is this one: "Surely the wonderful experience of going over that bridge would make him feel different." This refers to Johnny, the dad. He gets a job offer in the city, and to go in the city, you have to go over this bridge. And, for poor people, that was that feeling that, hey, you have to, come to the city and come work for us. This is, I don't want to divide people, but you ever get, I remember when I was 17 and I got a call from this job from a bank, and at the time I think I was working at a bowling alley, but that call at the bank made me feel like I was a totally different person. That might sound shallow, but it did. It felt like my life was going to go somewhere, somewhere good, somewhere positive. I'm walking up the ladder, and so I highlighted this scene in the book because I know that feeling, and I think everybody has that moment, whether it's a job interview or something else, where this is it, this is something new, and this is a new step. So I like that. And this is my last favorite quote: "One delves into the imagination and finds beauty there. The writer, like the artist, must strive for beauty always." This is Miss Gardner, the teacher, talking to Francie after she submits a piece of her work, which is the story of her family, and it's pretty bleak and depressing. And the teacher does not like it, because it's not beautiful, because it's, discusses poverty, and 2, because she says it's not true. While I disagree a lot with Miss Gardner and her snobbiness, I do, as someone who likes to write, I do understand what she's saying in finding beauty. For instance, if you've read stories about heartache or abuse, some of the greatest writers and poets make some of the darkest things we go through in life beautiful because of some of the, the diction they use, or the syntax. they use. So I like that, and I think a lot of great stories, I don't want to say romanticize, but a lot of the great stories that have a lot of pain and struggle in them are sort of beautiful in the way they make you not question even fiction. It makes you not question whether things happen. Like, you know, these things happen. I know it's in a fiction book like this, like some, you know, people judging you. You know it happens, and the way some writers make you automatically believe things, I guess. Or like poets, they write the words that are in your heart. And I think that's very beautiful when you can capture an emotion. So this is probably my most favorite quote out of the 5. And now I have some read alikes. If you liked A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, we have The House on Mango Street, Another Brooklyn, and The Glass Castle, which is one I always recommend, which is very similar. It's a different setting, setting. It's, the Glass Castle is a bit more modern. However, it's sort of in the same themes. It's the perseverance over poverty. And all these are available at the Harrison County Library System. And our August book club book is Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. It's considered fantasy and fiction. If you've ever read any of his stuff, such as Stardust is really good. American Gods is popular now because of the HBO series. I think it's HBO. And he's also written Coraline, which was made into a kids movie. It's actually quite dark. It's a creepy little kids movie. But Neverwhere is sort of in that same boat, where Neil Gaiman likes to include some mythical characters. So I hope you read this one. This one's available also in our physical collection and via Hoopla Digital. If you have any questions on how to use Hoopla, how to request books, feel free to call one of your local Harrison County library branches. And I will see you next time. Thank you for tuning in.